The Nick of Time podcast, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's going to be a good one.
In three, two, one. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 9 of the Nick of Time podcast. Can't believe it's already been 9 episodes. We have a very, very special one for you today. A good friend of mine, Senjun McGarity. Everybody, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be fascinating. He's really big into fitness, and that's probably gonna be a main topic of today. But we'll get into everything as far as mental health and our usual, organic conversation. So, Senjun, if you'd like to give a little tidbit about yourself, go ahead.
What's up, everybody? My name's Senjun McGarity. Currently 19 years old, so I'm still a young buck, still learning, going through life. But a lot of people are starting to recognize me for my fitness little journey right now. I started back last year in December. I was really overweight in a really bad spot in my life. And then I just kind of did a whole 180 on my life. And now we're here doing 1,000% better, And so that's where I am right now.
Awesome. We love to hear it. So, as you just mentioned, you said you did that 180 in the right direction. Do you remember if there was like a specific day where it was like, I'm done, like I'm just absolutely done?
Mm-hmm. It sucks because I know a lot of people usually have that moment, but I can never just think back to a single moment where it's just like, I'm done. But I do know, like, around the time, it was actually like a year ago from today, I had a Halloween party at my house. And, a year from now, I was a big partier, fucking alcoholic. And I was just, doing everything the wrong way. And had a really big party. And I ended up getting drugged at my own party. I got roofied. Woke up the next morning, didn't remember anything. And I was just scared. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel like myself. Maybe I should turn off my notifications.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
But I felt scared. Life just didn't feel right. And I kind of had like almost like how you forget, like you're just living in life. And then like you kind of wake up like a whole year later and you're like, oh shit, like what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so that happened. And I was just like, yeah, this something has to change. And so that's I guess that would probably be my moment right there. And it's slowly over.
I was gonna say getting drugged is a very easy motive, to start changing life decisions for sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. So you said a year, roughly a year around this time. So when you make that, that mental note, that mental, drastic change, what is the first step that you like eliminate? Because obviously, right, you said the partying or whatnot. Walk me through that process. You know what I mean? The beginning stages.
Yeah. So first thing first, I already automatically knew like I had to get sober because I was going on benders. I was drinking day after day after day, which led to me being so overweight as well. That coupled with like not a very well diet. So first thing first, I was like, okay, I got to get out of this partying lifestyle. And so that was my first step. I just kind of took a step back, which sucks because I still have the same friends, but we're not as close because now I am into a very different lifestyle. And so I lost a lot of real close relationships that I had with friends, like year-long relationships. But it's just that first step was just removing myself from that element.
Yeah, for sure, man. And as a person that's uh a little bit ahead of you as far as years go, it only gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
But I will say, or two things. I got two things on the note. One, when I think about my friends and the people close to me in my life, it's really hard for me to look at the people I love and care about and say, without drinking or without partying, like they wouldn't be my friend.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So as you go through life, I feel like that's super important, to keep that tight knit circle. And
Mhm.
then two, I just want to let let the audience know, we've all been there, we've all done that. Um, I don't think it's a phase that isn't common. It's actually very common. When I, joined the Air Force, you said last year 18, so I was 18. I just turned 19. And I got to Korea, right? And for those who don't know Korea, the nightlife is insane. They party hard out there, and then it's legal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not sneaking around, trying to drink or whatnot. And I just remember going out, and it was a year-long tour, and I remember being there 6 months and just like going crazy. And not crazy as in like I was doing wild stuff, but
Yeah.
that freedom, you know what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean? When you get that freedom, it really changes you, and you get caught up in this loop, you know? And then
Mhm.
everybody else is in the loop around you. So it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know what I mean? What am
Yeah.
I doing? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I would have traded those moments, because there was a point, I think it was my halfway point in that whole year, right? It was 6 months.
Mhm.
And I was still, like active, being fit, doing my normal stuff, trying to eat as good as I could. And I just remember like nothing was changing. I was like, dude, I'm busting, I'm grinding, like I'm doing all this stuff and nothing's changing. And I knew what it was. And
Yeah.
that's the sad part, right? We know what it is, but it's just like
Yeah.
there's this phase that we're just like, we got to go hard. And
Yeah.
a good friend of mine, uh Donnie, who I used to work out with a lot, and Eddie, we were always working out. And one day, Donnie was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna go out." Which, like, I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Well, then I'm not going out." You know what I mean? And so we
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't. And that was like the turning point. Shout out to Donnie. That was like a big turning point for me. And it was actually, I wouldn't say necessarily life changing, but it changed my health for the better in so many ways.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so, for yourself, for everybody listening, we all have those phases. I think the most important takeaway is just to know that it's not okay. It's not like terrible. We all gotta get it out of our system. Some
Yeah.
are quicker than others. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it's definitely a thing that everybody struggles with for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess, piggyback off of that, whenever you made the decision, you had those beginning phases, was there anybody in your life that really, jumped on board and was like, hey, I see what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? I want to jump on this train of, life changes.
Hmm. I did. I had this was around quarantine time, when it had just barely first happened, and like the whole city was shut down and everything. And I had worked at a gym here, and so like I had a key to get in and stuff, and like so I had a couple buddies hit me up, just like friends that I had made in the gym. They were like, "Hey, bro, like you still trying to like hit the gym? Like, can you open it up for us and stuff like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." And I was never really close with these guys, and so the more we just like kind of started working out. And at this time I was still kind of partying still a little bit, but not as crazy as I
Yeah.
was. But the more we did it and did it, we got super close. And we eventually we all make this like big 180 in our life. uh and if you see them today, like compared to where they were, it's just like me. Like it was like it's a complete 180. It's crazy. And we always talk about it like, dude, like our 1 year transformation is insane. Like, like we look totally different.
Yeah, that was your Donnie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's dope, man. I think there's a lot to be said, especially when it comes to, uh the young generation and, people in their 20s just trying to figure it out,
Mhm.
because that's a lot of it is. It's not that, we want to do bad intentionally or we choose, to always do the wrong thing. It's more like I'm figuring it out, and some people it takes longer than others. But there's something to be said about the people around you and those attitudes and mentalities that really, really can make the difference and
Yeah.
become life altering,
Oh yeah.
That's
Environment a lot.
that's crazy. So you
Yeah.
go on this journey, right? Um, I know, especially physically, right? Once you start doing a complete 180 like that, significant changes come in almost instantaneously, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
then you hit a hard plateau. Talk to me about those plateaus that you've gone through in this past year.
Ah, man, I actually just barely made like I think it was Instagram video about this not so long ago. But I was talking about yeah, once you after you get like through the whole like weight loss phase or whatever you're trying to do, and you get to that point where you're like, okay, now I've made it. Now I gotta like kind of stepping stone off of that. It gets repetitive and it gets kind of boring, but you just kind of have to remind yourself of like how it was in the beginning. Why did you start? Like, like what are your reasons? And you still have to just kind of keep that with you like through the whole journey. And so when I had initially lost all the weight, whatever, and through that journey I found bodybuilding. And then I just remember I was just like, man, I don't think I can get big enough. Like, like I started getting this. I wasn't as motivated as I was, when I first started. And man, it sucked because it sucks in the bodybuilding uh industry. You never really know like how great you can actually be, without actually putting in the 10-20 years of work. And then you can finally realize if it's even worth it or not. So sometimes, I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, but it's hard because you actually have to put in that 20 years of hard work day in, day out to even figure out if you're going to be one of the greats or not, And
No, for sure.
so I would just get in my head a lot. And so that's when I started going on my morning walks again and just clearing my head out for remembering my reasons why I started. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, and it's that everlasting question. It's like, I don't know how great I can be, but let's find out, And so that's
No,
kind of
for
how
sure.
I got over plateaus. I just kind of remember that question. I always ask it.
That's dope, man. And I feel like I know a lot of people that are doing what you're doing.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know anybody that's as young as you doing what you're doing. I got a lot of friends. Yurid, shout out to Yurid.
Oh yeah.
Irizarry is a military friend of mine. Another friend of mine named John. They all do it and they grind. You know what I mean? So I definitely got a lot of respect for what you're doing. And along those lines of plateaus, man, like when I think about, you talk about the struggles in the day in and day out, it's like that's why I think mental health is such a big deal.
Mm.
I don't think as men, we talk about it enough. And at every podcast I bring it out because it's so important, and we try to shrug it off to the side or whatnot. Am I good enough? Do I matter? Who cares about me? Et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it happens to women too, especially, right?
Mm-hmm.
But was there anything? Let me see how I'm trying to work this, because what you're talking about, right? Your why and why you keep going, why you do what you do, it's your purpose. You know what I mean? You always got to remember your purpose. If you don't remember your purpose, you're
Yeah.
gonna lose yourself along the way. You're gonna, you know what I mean? You're gonna fall off, and it's just gonna be, another thing that you attempted to do compared to something that, you gave your all in. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of do that with this podcast, right? I started and I was like, what was my purpose? And then there
Yeah.
was like times where I was like, dude, it's been like 3 weeks. I haven't done a podcast, and I remember why I started, and that was to get messages out that, you portray, a lot of good friends that I've gone through life with are portraying, and we all have
Mhm.
these different perspectives that we can all learn from.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we think about mental health, what do those words mean to you on your journey, you know, from, going through the party phase to now?
It means a lot, man. Because me personally, I've dealt with, I wouldn't say severe depression because I know there's, always a lot worse cases in mind. But man, it's very important to me because back in high school, um, I found myself slipping into depression more and more, where I was just very antisocial. I would skip school just to like keep away from people because I didn't want to have conversations. And that led into like after I graduated, it was still really, really bad. Um, Trying to really stay antisocial because I didn't like human interaction. I didn't like talking to anybody. And so when I started partying, it was weird because, you're surrounded by all your friends. You're surrounded by all these people having a good time, drinking, whatever, right? Laughing. But at that time, I that's when I felt like the loneliest. It was weird.
Yeah.
And so like it'd always be like the mornings after you would wake up and just kind of just like you just sit and just think to yourself, like, I don't know who I am. Like I just don't know where to go from here. You don't really see a way out. And so mental health is like really, really big. And I mean, I still struggle with it day to day. I find myself slipping into it. But over the years, you find your steps like of how to work your way out of it. If I wake up and I go take a walk in the morning, clear my mind out, my day goes a lot better. My health, my mental health is a lot better throughout the day compared to like if I sleep in or I don't do my usual routine. If something's a little off, then I'm having a little bit of a lower day. But man, yeah, mental health is very huge, and it's not talked about enough in men, especially for sure.
Dude, that's a great answer. And you weren't the only one. I feel like I was pretty antisocial um, in high school, but it's almost weird. It's almost like in a different kind of way, right? Because I was always a very good like communicator as far as like I could talk, right? I have a
Mhm.
podcast. I hope I can talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was always good at that, and I was a social person, but I was antisocial to the point of, I mean, you played high school football, man. It was just like this weird life of like I was grinding for a mission, and there was people that were coming in and out of my life that I didn't know who was genuine and who was not.
Yeah.
Obviously I had my really close friends. I was like, dude, these are like my friends for life, and
Yeah.
they still are. But there was a lot of friends that I was just like, are you my friend because of like Nick, or are you my friend because I threw 3 touchdowns last Friday, or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And that really like that kind of social pressure will just like your brain just like goes crazy. And I would just like put my headphones in and I'd put like a hoodie on and I just walk to math class. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Please don't nobody bother me. Not because I don't like people, but
Yeah.
because I was just nervous, and
Yeah.
not nervous isn't like but I had a lot of nerves when I was walking around because I didn't know who I could trust and who I couldn't trust.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's something to say, you know what I mean, about where you were just, even 2 or 3 years ago, and then starting this transition. And then you talk about, your routine in the mornings, or not your morning routine, but as far as like taking a walk, changing, the entirety of your day. That's super important. I just
Yeah.
want to highlight that for the people listening. I mean, however you start your day really, really is gonna pave the way for the rest of it. Maybe even the rest of the week. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? Because if you start your day off with a good walk, clear your mind, clear your head, even if it's just 20 minutes, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Even if it's just 20 minutes. And then the rest of your day, no matter what you do, you've accomplished something. And then the
Mm-hmm.
rest of your day is only going to pay the way. And if you do that the whole week, think about how good your week's going to go, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just that discipline, man. That discipline is a beast.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of people, like you said, get very bored with consistency. I fall victim to that. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But consistency is very huge. And when I think about consistency, I want to go on to your day to day, man. What's your day to day looking like?
Uh, right now it's not too busy, but I am also a barber, so I just barely graduated from barber school, and so now I'm working in my dad's shop right now. A
Give
couple
him a
days out
shout out. Give him a
of
shout out.
my dad Pete. Shout out headlines. So yeah, I just barely finished up with his barber school. So now I'm getting ready, studying for my state test, so I can actually be a licensed barber. And so right now, I only cut a couple of days out of the week because I still like to prioritize, my weightlifting and all that. Um, so really, I just I wake up in the morning, I go for my walk, and I eat my meals. And if I have to go cut that day, then I'll go. I usually cut like 3 to 7. And then after that, if I didn't hit the gym in the morning, which I usually don't, because I'm supposed to wake up and go like in the morning when it's not crowded. And that's when I get the best workout, but I usually don't wake up. I still got to work on my sleep schedule for sure, but I'll usually just go after I'm done cutting, go work out, hit some cardio, and then come back and watch some anime and go to sleep. That's usually my day to day right there.
Pretty simple, man. Hey, it's consistent. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, uh, the hard part for everybody, and I know it's a hard part for you, because why? Nobody ever has ever said it wasn't the hard part. Diet, man. How many calories? What's your eating regimen like? Those meals, you know what I mean? What are you intaking?
So right now, currently, I am in my off season, preparing to do my first show, hopefully sometime around April. So I'm still in my off season. I peaked out a little bit like a month ago. I got to like 225, and I was eating about roughly 3 to 32,000 or 3,200 calories. And so I got a little too fluffy. So now right now, me and my coach are doing a mini cut. So basically, I'm just taking very small amount of calories away just to slim up just a little bit more, because your body's very more, it optimizes muscle growth a lot better when you're leaner. So getting a little bit leaner right now. I'm eating 2,500. And then once I'm done with that and I get down to really good leanness, then I'm just going to go back into my surplus of probably like 3,000.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear it. Everybody, you want to get big, get eat big. You hear me?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, for sure. Those calories matter, man. But you better be burning them off. Or not burning them off, but you know what I mean. You better be working, because if you're not
yeah.
working for
Got
it,
to put them to work.
you know, you're just gonna fluff up. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. So I usually don't do this, but you know, we're talking, we're just BSing this stuff, because I mean, yeah, we've met a few times, but you know, obviously you're younger than me and I don't. We were just in different kind of classes, almost
Yeah. Yeah.
eras. But I feel like I'm like this I wouldn't say weird, but for me it was different, because I was like connected to like an era and an era. I was like the middle child, right?
Mhm.
Because when I was a sophomore, right, you know, we went to the playoffs, all this stuff, and then my senior year, right, I was when the new generation was coming in, and there was only like I think 8 seniors on my like senior class, which
Yeah. Yeah.
isn't just pretty rare. But when you think about the podcast and stuff, I know you got a lot going on as far as your social media. What was your initial reaction? This is just for me. This is not for the audience. Sorry, audience. But what was your initial reaction? I was like, hey man, I want you on the podcast, man. I really like what you got going on, this whole movement.
Man, I was honestly, I was really, really honored, bro. Cause well, I used to play football as well. And, when I was watching y'all go to the playoffs and stuff like that, I always looked up to you. And because I saw your leadership and stuff like that. And so you were always a really big inspiration, like, to me. And so just getting that acknowledgement from you, getting me on the podcast, stuff like that, man, I was really honored.
I appreciate that, man. And that's not to toot my own horn, but it's just I think a lot of times when I'm doing this, like I have so much curious questions I want to ask about people that
Mhm.
sometimes like I have to take a step back and be like, okay, dude, you're doing this podcast, right? You're asking good or trying to ask good questions. You know what I mean? I guess it's just like feedback for the podcast,
Yeah.
because it's hard, man. It's hard to not that I do it for views, but I do it to try to get this messages out there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh
Something as
yeah.
simple as somebody doing a 180 in their life and, pursuing bodybuilding, or talking about mental health, like
Mhm.
that could change somebody's day, let alone, their life. Who
Yeah.
knows what this conversation, it may not reach a lot of people, right? But who knows what this conversation is going to do to
Yeah.
that one person, you know what I mean? That might have gotten drugged at a party last weekend or whatever the case may be, like it speaks volumes. And I appreciate that. I really do. It's real sincere. And I've always, even in my, professional life, as far as the Air Force and even now, man, I always try to, be that leader, stand up for people, because everyone doesn't have a voice, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and anytime I could be that for anybody, that's what I always try to do, and that's, a big thing that this podcast revolves around.
That's what's up, man. Hell yeah.
Awesome, man. So you're in the off season doing a show. You said April timeframe, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about how, how long does this off season go on for, and when do you start your prep?
So currently I've been in off season, man, probably, it's hard to say. I think I would probably say probably 5 months right now. Currently, that's when I started taking bodybuilding like super serious, and so I've been slowly building my way up. Um, but it just depends on my prep time. Uh, Whenever I start, how lean I am at that time. So if I'm already a pretty good leanness, and it probably wouldn't take me too long to get show ready. Probably going to be about probably like an 8-week prep. But if I'm a little bit on the heavier side and kind of lost control a little bit of my off season, how it usually tends to happen, it'd probably be a little bit longer, probably maybe 14, 16-week prep. And it all just goes off of whatever show I pick and whatever that date is. Me and my coach will get that more dialed in when the time comes.
That's awesome, man. And who's your coach, by the way? We gotta give him a shout out.
I'm currently under Kushner Fitness. He's a big coach out of Austin, Texas right now. And so he has a really, really big team out there. And so hopefully they always have team lifts out there, man. And I'm supposed to be moving to Dallas pretty soon. And so hopefully I'll be able to make it out there pretty soon with the whole team. But
Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I currently live in San Antonio, but I will also be making a move here pretty soon. I'm still in the Air Force, but I got a new job as a occupational safety, which they do like inspections for different jobs in the Air Force, right? Whether that's offices, construction, engineering, like all kinds of jobs, from admin jobs to like
yeah,
big construction jobs. We're just go do inspections and stuff, which is a really good gig for me. And it's also gonna, be good for, the outside. There's a lot of money in safety.
that's
But
good.
I'm also making a move to Wichita Falls, which it's obviously not DFW, but it's about an hour and a half north. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
gonna be pretty exciting. I don't want to live there, to be honest, but the job itself is worth it. So
Yeah.
that's where they're sending me. So that's where I gotta go. So that's dope, man. So Dallas, that's nice to hear. What does that look like? You know what I mean? Talk to me.
Man, I mean, I always have love for my hometown. But I just really want to take this bigger step in my life to, just kind of set up my career path. Hopefully I can go down there and cut a little bit, just for my income sake. But there's a lot of big bodybuilders down there that, that inspire me, that I see on Instagram on the daily, that work out there,
Yeah.
and it's hard being down here. And, I don't want to talk down on our hometown or anything like that, but there's so much negativity here. There's so much, people don't really want to see you win here. It's hard, it's hard. It really is, So I kind of want to just pull myself away, kind of like how I put myself away from the partying element, and just take my steps in life, build myself up. And then hopefully one day, if everything goes well, what I'm saying, I build a name for myself, I can come back here and kind of share that positivity, show that growth, that, Odessa can breed some good people just as yourself. So I just got to kind of take myself away for a little bit, kind of build myself outside of my hometown.
That's awesome, man. That's a really good answer. I think when I think about back to when I left, I think about, like you have a send off, right?
Mhm.
This is actually a funny story. I don't think a lot of people know this story. If you ask my dad, he'd tell it even better than I would. But when I was getting ready to leave for the Air Force, right? Shout out to all these people. There's a lot of great people. And just naturally, like you just like grow apart, right? But you should have seen my Air Force recruiter, sorry, in the mall, right? Because that's where the recruiter office is. Because what they do is, if you're leaving out of Odessa, and it's not just Air Force, it's all the Army people, they ship you off to Amarillo, and you go get it's called MEPS, you'll get your medical stuff, and you swear in one last time. Like, you do that prior, when you're like signing the papers, and you have to do it again just to be like, hey, this is like legit happening.
Yeah.
Drug tests, blood tests, all that good jazz. Then they ship you off, or for me it was San Antonio. So it's a day in Amarillo, and then after that day in Amarillo, the next morning you're on a plane, San Antonio, where boot camp is, basic training. And my recruiter was this big, swole white guy named Tech Sergeant Humphreys at the time. And I remember I walked into the office, right? And I was like, I'm ready to go. But I still had like 20-ish minutes before the vans came to take us to Amarillo.
Yeah.
And he walked outside. And that's when all like the chairs, when like somebody performs like on a stage or whatever, it's like right next to the office. And there was, I'm not kidding you, I think there's about like 50 people outside, right? And my recruiter was like, what the hell is this? He's like, I've never seen this before, right? And I was like, oh, these are my friends, And then he was just like in shock, right? And I never thought anything of it, because it was just normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it goes back to like that I didn't know it at the time, right? Because you're young, or at least, you know what I mean? When I think about it, it was that anxiety of like, there's just always people around me.
Yeah.
And there's 50 people sitting down, saying hi, et cetera, et cetera. And we take this big old picture. And shout out to all those people that showed up. Lovely people. I probably only talked to maybe 3 of them now,
Yeah.
But they're still beautiful people, and I wish nothing the best. They supported me, and I will forever be grateful for that. But like, when I look back at that time, it was just different. And now that when you leave, right, when you talk about going to Dallas and stuff, it's a big step, man, and it takes a certain kind of person to be courageous and do something like that, especially when, you know, our hometown can easily try to dictate, you know, what you should do.
Yeah.
And this is for anybody that that ever, you know, talks about their hometown or thinks down on their hometown. A lot of people from Odessa never left Odessa. They probably never even left Texas, you know.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, an abyss of, you know, drowning, I believe. But I don't think it's the place. It's people. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not people that are from Odessa. It's people that you know.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been all across the world, and guess what? People say the same thing about where they're from, right?
Yeah.
So to all my people listening out there, whether you're from Texas, Pennsylvania, California, the Netherlands, Guam, I don't care where you're from. We all have that hometown resentment a little bit, and it's not the town. I promise you it's not the town. It's the people. Because now, man, when I go back to Odessa, I love it, right? And I don't love it to stay,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but I have, you know, my few friends there, and then obviously my folks there that I just so grateful, you know, because those are my people and I get to see them.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of times people think like, oh, it's so toxic, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, people are toxic, but people you know are toxic because they're trying to put you down. If
Yeah.
you go to Odessa, right? So let's say you moved to Arizona in a town that was the same population and the same environment, right? It wouldn't be the same experience. Why? Because nobody knows you. Nobody's gonna talk about you. Nobody's gonna try to scheme around anything you're doing. Why? Because you didn't grow up with these people, you know? And that's super huge. And I commend you very much on taking that step because it's not easy to just
Yeah.
jump ship and say, hey, I gotta do what I gotta do. You
Yeah.
know? That is crazy. Oh, Dallas. Are you gonna live in Dallas, like specifically Dallas, or probably like suburbs somewhere?
The Plano area, right there,
Okay.
close to Allen.
All right, that's dope. What is that time frame looking like?
I'm aiming for January. I'm really just waiting until I get my actual license, my barber license, so I can actually have a job when I get down there, and I just kind of like look at her out everywhere. But so just really whenever I get my barber's license for sure.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So anything else going on in your life? Just the same old day to day, huh?
Yeah, man. It's just focusing on the future, just grinding every day, trying to, you know, make the future look better.
Yeah, for sure, man. You got to invest in yourself because if you don't, who will? You know what I mean? Even if people are trying to invest in you, if you're not doing it for yourself, then, you know, people can't help you. Not at
Yeah.
all. That's good, man. That's so good. Do you see yourself doing any kind of like podcasting or anything like I know you do a lot of social media stuff, but do you see yourself how's that looking like? Because I know you post a lot and you have to, you know, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got to keep that algorithm going for sure.
You know, I actually used to do like a little small podcast like back in high school with a couple of my friends, but that fell apart because, you know, just life happens and drift apart, whatever.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy podcasts. So hopefully like when I have a little bit more time to focus on a little bit of other things besides, because I mean, Instagram and TikTok, they're pretty easy to, you know, kind of post on the daily, you know what I'm saying? Just make you know, just take pictures or whatever. So that's pretty easy. But once I get some more time under my belt, then yeah, for sure, I want to go more into, you know, podcast or even, you know, just a regular YouTube channel. Or even when I moved down into Dallas, I want to get back to live streaming on Twitch. I used to game a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I definitely
That's dope. I have a cousin and a good friend of mine that that do it, and they love it. You know what I mean? The whole Twitch game thing. Do you find yourself being a good like communicator? Do you think you like, you know, you think you're good with words? Because obviously, right? I don't know if you know this or not, dude, but you're good looking, so like
Appreciate it.
you got that going for you, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, do you find yourself naturally being a good speaker? Do you think like that's something that
Uh,
you don't have to be, by the way. I just want to see where your head is at,
I think so. I think definitely for my age as well. I think I speak pretty well and pretty fluent. I struggle with anxiety, so I get anxiety a lot as well. So it kind of like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
good, but then sometimes the anxiety kicks in, and I'm like, so I think I'm
No, for
decent.
sure. I always told an old supervisor of mine, Jason Gilly, shout out to Jason Gilly, one of the best men I've ever met in my life. He always asked me like, well, where do you get this, like, you're well put together? Where does that come from? I was like, it comes from a lot of things. One, shout out to my parents, but two, I was super shy as a kid. Like, I was so shy to the point where my mom, like, she would cook and leave food for me, right? 'Cause she'd be working. But if she didn't, like, if she didn't wake up to cook or that day, she'd like leave like $10 and be like, hey, order a pizza. I'm working, it's a Friday night, I'm working late. So I'm over there playing Halo 3, Halo 2, Halo 3,
Yeah.
gaming, living my best life. And I wouldn't order the pizza. Why? This is before online, right? I was like in
Yeah.
like the third or fourth grade. And I was terrified to call Domino's. I was absolutely terrified.
You talk
And I
about the
just
most.
was, yeah, I would starve, right? That was the
Yeah.
kind of shy kid I was. And then come middle school, right? This is when like that was about to change. Not because I wanted it to, because I didn't want to change at all,
Yeah.
But seventh grade comes, we're playing football, and this was like, they smoke you the first 3 or 4 days, whatever. And it was that Friday we got our pads. So we're all out there, and you remember in seventh grade, there was like 80 people, 80 kids, and they're trying to weed out all the people that don't want to be there. And I remember we were doing stretch lines, and we had done stretches all week. And one of the coaches comes up and was like, Coach Hinojosa comes up to me, and he was like, do you remember the stretches? And I was like in the middle of the pack, like of the stretch line. We're already formed up.
Yeah.
And out of fear, I was like, yes. He was like, go up to the front then, Nick, lead the stretches. And I'm like, doom, 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 like about to, drop a deuce on myself. Like I was like tripping. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, I don't know these stretches. I'm freaking out. And out of fear, I did it. Right. And I
Yeah.
remembered them and all that, just out of fear.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of like my first step to like, dude, I know you're a shy kid, but that's gotta go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it didn't happen. It didn't happen overnight either. It took a while. And I want to say just that over the next 6 years, high school, it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like I finally like gained confidence. And I always had it, but it only got better and better. I don't even think it was like a switch. I never looked at it like a switch of like, oh, I wasn't confident, now I am confident. It was like, okay, I'm confident, I'm more confident, okay, I'm a little more confident, I'm a little more. So by the time I turned 18,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
if you asked me to audiobook, dude, I'd read the hell out of an audiobook. let you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I just had this natural, like, like, I guess, skill. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to call that a skill, but speaking became easy to me, and I always like would observe and pay attention to things, and it just all became very natural. So now, in my professional life, I it, it's what I do,
Yeah.
and as
Oh
a
yeah.
safety man, you got to do a lot of public speaking and stuff, and they're like, are you comfortable with that? And I'm like, I'm actually in my element when I'm doing
Yeah.
this. So, you know what I mean? Let me let me call the pizza man. You feel me? I got you.
Yeah,
Oh,
let me
that's
order the
funny.
pizza.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's dope. Are there anything you think I was thinking about the whole like anxiety and what are there any weaknesses you think um in your life, like your day to day and as a bodybuilder?
Uh, no, I don't know. Like just with anxiety or
No, just in general. The only reason I'm asking is because I feel like a lot of times, especially as men, we tend to be super macho at everything we do. So it's like
Mhm.
I know there's things I'm bad at. Um, I think when I look back on my life, and one of the things I was able to succeed at is knowing what I'm not good at, so I can do my best. You know what I mean, to improve that.
Mhm.
Like for example, I think one thing I've always always struggled with, and I don't know why I'm like this, but I've always struggled with sorry. I I internalize things, right? And I
Mhm.
struggle with sometimes getting too deep. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I can be like real preachy,
Mhm.
and there's a time and place for that. And I may sometimes overdo it.
Okay.
So me navigating those waters is something that, and that's just like one example, right?
Mhm.
I definitely have many more, but when I think about things that I struggle with, it only it only helps, pave your way forward. And maybe, somebody else listening has that struggle or whatever
Mhm.
struggles you may have. I'm trying to get your brain firing because it's only going to help you in the long run. What do you think some life struggles, not life struggles, but some self weaknesses, you know what I mean, that you have that you think you could improve on?
Uh, uh, I would say one for sure is just kind of bottling just all kinds of emotions and stuff up, because like you said, we try to be real macho, and especially in this society, in this generation, it's hard to be open. It's hard to actually just be yourself. So a lot of times I find myself being or like playing a different character, and
Yeah, for
and I
sure.
cover myself up a little bit and not being my true self a lot of the times, especially on social
That's
media. So,
no, man, that's a very honest answer. That's a very good answer. And I think at one point in time, I think that's like a phase. You know
mhm.
what I mean? I think it's just like the partying phase. Oh, everybody else is doing it, so this is what I'm doing. And then you
Yeah.
get to a point where it's like, well, I want to do what I want to do, excuse me, and be myself. So it's
Mhm.
like if this is what I'm gonna do, this is gonna be my own lane, my own road, and here I am, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
Tough on social media because there's so many there's these sponsored athletes and stuff like that, all these big creators, influencers, and if you like really have like an outside view, they're all like really the same, it's not really
yeah,
just
for
it's
sure.
fake. A lot of it is fake. You have your you have your specific ones that are actually like real and authentic, and those are the ones that usually stand out. And so I tried my best, like now building a social media platform, trying to be authentic, but it's hard because it's so flooded with fakeness, and you kind of get caught up in it because it gets views or gets likes. You're like, okay, let
Yeah.
me just and
That's a
so
drug. That
yeah,
you want to talk about getting drugged?
yeah.
Hey, get 1,000 likes on an Instagram post and act like you're not high. That's yeah, yeah. That's definitely legit. I think people will always resonate with that though. I know it sucks and it's like a harder road to go down. Obviously, you gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I mean, to get your presence known.
Yeah.
But just being yourself, and I think that's one thing with me that, and I don't know because I can't speak for the people around me or the people that respect me, but I never
Mhm.
try to be anybody else.
Mhm.
I I use a big example of like when I'm in the car like listening to music,
Mhm.
like obviously you're a mixed kid too, right? Like we're gonna throw in Lil Baby, you know what I mean? We're gonna throw in some throwback Jay Sean, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Wheezy, you know, like G Herbo, like it's gonna be like some bachata music, like it's gonna be a lot of stuff. And I
yeah,
don't care who's sitting in that passenger seat or who's sitting in the back
yeah.
seat, because you're in
Uh-huh.
my truck. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm not here to like be cool and like, hey, like, you know, this is what I bump. Like, you know, I'm gonna put it
Yeah.
on shuffle.
Hmm.
And if T Swift comes on, guess what? We listening to T Swift, you feel me? Like
Yeah.
that's just what it's gonna be, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people envy that. Not so much with me, because like I don't like have a lot of like new people that I interact with on a day to day, but like when I see somebody like Joe Rogan, you know, or
Mhm.
like other comedians like Chris D'Elia and people like that, it's just like, dude, they're just themselves
Yeah.
and nobody else, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people should take a lot of pride in being who you are, because everyone's unique in their own kind of way, you know?
Hmm.
So whatever you do, man, just find what you do best. Obviously you're finding it, right? But as you keep
Yeah.
continuing on your journey, man, just don't stop being you, because then that's when it'll hit. You know what I mean? That's when you'll start doing big things and, you know, become even bigger than what you are now and all your
Mhm.
aspirations and whatnot. But yeah, man, that's so awesome. I love this kind of stuff, by the way. These conversations are super dope, and I enjoy doing them.
Oh, yeah.
I think not to wrap it up, but you know, to kind of, I guess, come full circle. If you had any advice to give yourself, let's see, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
what would it be right now? Knowing what you know now.
First things first, don't neglect the diet. That's one thing that is very overlooked, and too many people think there's too many shortcuts around it, which there really isn't. And so, don't neglect the diet, not only for like physical reasons, but that really helps with mental health as well. Just having, a healthy body, healthy mind, it all kind of goes together. So, one is, you know, get on a diet for sure. I definitely needed it 3 years ago. Um, what else? Just take a step back every now and then, kind of see where you're at, see what's going on. Are you still on the same path that you thought you were on, or like, are you on the right path that you think you're supposed to be going down? You kind of take a step back, you know, embrace the life, don't try to live too fast, because too many
For sure.
people, wish days away. Man, I wish it was already like, now that we're getting into winter and fall, like, dang, I wish it was summer. But now you're wasting away all these, you're wishing away all these
Yeah.
months, and it's just gonna go by like that because you're just wishing away, and you're not gonna
Mm.
appreciate that life. And then next thing you know, you're 90 years old, and
Yeah.
all
And
away.
and and I know you work hard, man. I know the grind. But life just gets more and more complicated. We get more and more busy, and it goes even faster. If you thought the last 3 years went fast, I promise you, the next three are going to be even faster. And what I try to do is, you know, it's hard. It's so hard, but I really take pride in trying to do increments of five. Lord,
Mhm.
Lord willing, you know what I mean? I wake up tomorrow, right? I'm obviously grateful for each and every day. But what are you
Mhm.
doing now that's gonna, you know, change you in 5 years? And
Mhm.
then once those 5 years are done, what are you doing now that's gonna affect you in 5 years? Because that's the reality, right? Like when I joined, I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like I'm making money, I'm traveling, all this stuff. But when I finally got back to Texas, I'd always wanted to buy my own house, right? And I
Mhm.
did it. but a lot of other people didn't do it. And not that I'm some guru, because there's definitely people that have my
Yeah,
age, but that's the difference, right? Me and another person that, saved up money and, moved the right way to say,
hmm
hey, like at 23, I'm gonna buy a house. You know what I mean? And just do it compared to somebody that didn't, you know?
yeah.
And that's super important. Increments of 5 are super, super, super important. So I hope you take that for what it's worth and
Most
try to use
definitely. Yeah.
that going forward. Uh yeah, and then as far as like closing remarks, I think we're about to wrap it up here soon. I know I just asked you a whole advice thing, but is there anything message wise, that you personally, like you say, you talk about that bottle, and then other than like, it doesn't have to be deep, it could be anything. Is there
hmm
anything that you think about in your day to day that's just like you want to let the people know?
Uh, if you got a dream, just do it. Because like you said, you're grateful to wake up every day. You're not guaranteed every day's a blessing. So if you got a dream, you got an aspiration, definitely just go for it. Like for me, for instance, bodybuilding, there's not a lot of money in it unless you're elite, genetic elite
Mm-hmm.
athlete. You just top of the top. There's not a lot of money in it, but that's not what I'm in the sport for. I'm in it for the passion, the art, and I love to do it. And I haven't even done my first show yet, but it drives me that much that I know if I get to the end and I'm not that elite athlete that I thought I was going to be, I'm still going to be happy at the end of the day that I put my all into it. Now I'm at the end of the journey and I have no regrets at the end. So just do whatever you want to do, because once you're gone, you don't want to have to lay on your deathbed having any regrets. Man, I wish I did this when I was 20. I wish I did this when I was 30.
Yeah,
Do
that's
what
a
you want.
that's a that's such a great way to put it, man. I like the way you worded that, and you're very well spoken. Keep that purpose, everyone. Remember to keep that purpose. So with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. Let the people know where they can find you. Um, I know you got a little bit of YouTube stuff going on, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff.
I'm on Instagram at Senjun McGarity, SenjunMcGarity. Same thing for TikTok. And those are my two main social medias right now.
Awesome. Love to hear it, man. There you have it, guys. Senjun McGarity, an up and coming, future bodybuilder and a good dude overall. Senjun, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate your time, man. Even more so, I appreciate your conversation. It's been a good one, and hopefully you like the way this turns out.
Yes, sir. For sure. I appreciate it, man.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for supporting. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. For more, be sure to like and subscribe. And y'all take care. See you soon.